Hey guys, welcome to J Hauser Writes. Just a quick plug, remember that my young adult contemporary romantic fantasy is now available for order. Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, a ton of the .coms, even at your local library if you would request it. I would really appreciate that. It would really go a long way to support me and writing those online reviews. So whether it's writing or crafting or art or something else, I love learning. I am very much self-taught in many ways, and I love creating and sharing. So I love getting questions from other writers who are trying to go through that slog of actually coming out with an end product that they can be proud of and maybe share with the world. So who am I to be able to speak on this topic? Well, I mean, I'm a published author, so that's one thing, but I don't have a degree in writing. I do not. I have 2 college degrees, an associate's and a bachelor's, and neither is in writing. That doesn't mean that I didn't have to learn some English to be able to write papers for different classes. You know, I took journalism, I took poetry, college level, and I enjoyed them. But it wasn't until I found my passion that I really dove into this. So a lot of mine has been trial and error. But the question that I want to address today is planning out a book, because it seems like this is where some people are getting stuck, where for months or even years, their manuscript just goes on the back burner because they can't figure out where they're going with the story. They can't figure out how to get from point A to C. And that's a legitimate problem, I think, for most writers, especially when you're new at it. Now, there are books out there. There are resources. There's one that I'm gonna pop in here. It's called Save the Cat. I think that's the most popular one that I've heard about. But again, I haven't read it. I requested it from my library and was disappointed that they didn't even have a copy. Like, why? Why? No other writers? I don't know. It just seems like it's talked about a lot. But it helps you understand the action beats of your storyline. Now, this does vary also by genre. If you're writing a murder mystery with lots of suspense, you're going to have different action beats that readers are going to expect versus a romantic comedy. Right? You're going to have the different turning points and plot twists and conflicts that they have to overcome. So part of that is just genre expectations, and honestly, being well read in your genre will help with that as well. To know, like, okay, I feel like we need to be amping up right now, getting a little something exciting. We need a reveal. We need something else. So that will really help. And that really is the biggest thing, is managing tension. Just before your couple's gonna have their first kiss, someone's gonna walk in the room and totally spoil the moment, right? You gotta get your reader almost there and then rip that rug out underneath from them. And I do think you become more sadistic as a writer. Just saying. When my editor told me that she teared up at the death of a character in an upcoming novel, I was so happy. But, you know, your characters found a victory, they found an answer, they realized something, oh crap. Then something else hits the fan, or they have a new realization, a new development happens, they think they're getting their goal and then they don't. So it is a lot of management of tension and deciding when you're gonna do that. And you really do, it is a roller coaster, right? You're taking your readers on a roller coaster ride. For genre fiction, that's what you're doing. No matter what genre, it really is. You're going to need a build up, and you're going to need moments also of calm. Because if you're giving them from start to finish, action, if their life is threatened the entire time, then 1, your reader is going to be exhausted. They're not going to have a moment to take a breath. 2, they're not really going to care. It's not going to feel that exciting. If you are constantly on a high, then it doesn't feel like it's high anymore, if that makes sense, right? So I think naturally, just from reading, at least for me, I picked up where I needed those moments of like, okay, I feel like, okay, it's pretty intense. Okay, now let's give them a breather. Okay, enough of a breather. Let's do this. A lot of it is subjective as well. Some people love Brandon Sanderson or Tolkien level world building, where you know the color of the veins on the leaves on the trees, and you really take that moment to explore things before heading into the action. And some people are just like, come on, when's the action gonna happen? So that is somewhat up to preference. And beta readers, I'll talk more about them in another video, but readers that help you along the way will also help you when you present your whole manuscript and they're able to say like, this part kind of bored me. Or I've had readers say, you totally glossed over that scene, like there was barely any mention, and I feel like that would have an emotional impact that I want to know about. Like, okay, I will expand that. Or we didn't get enough of that character to really feel that suspense, to really dig as deep into that theme as I wanted. So feedback is very helpful. And again, I'm just kind of doing this willy-nilly, going off of my expectations from reading, even watching movies, to know where those things lie, as well as help from others. So outlining, I mean, should you outline it to know exactly where your starting point is, right? Where your climax is going to be, where your plot twist is going to happen? Should you be able to chart that all on a piece of paper? And I'm going to say, no. You don't necessarily have to do that. There are two main camps that you'll hear talked about in different verbiage, but I refer to them as the plotters and the pantsers. So the people that plot or outline things, sometimes they are very meticulous, down to every single scene. They know exactly what's going to happen before they ever put their pen to paper. And then there are the pantsers, people who fly by the seat of their pants and just sit down and start typing. Generally, most of us are somewhere in between. There's a spectrum there, right? I am definitely more towards the pantser. I think I have one book that I've literally been able to plan out every month of the story over the span of a year or so. Even then, it's not a scene by scene. I don't always know where it's going to go. I know generally in my head, this is the beginning. Here are the stakes. Here's a conflict. Here's a subplot, and where are we going to end up? So like on this book, I had to ask myself, like, who's my character? What are their wants and needs? What's going to get in the way of those wants and needs, right? Who's going to pull that rug out underneath from them? And it just kind of wrote itself. Again, I just kind of, by the seat of my pants, started to write, and it would come to my head some points where I'm like, ooh, there's going to be a time where this is going to happen. We're going to have a scene at this location, and this information is going to be disclosed, and that's when we really dig into this conflict. Okay, and then when we're back at this location, we're going to have to explore this. Okay, right? And we'll introduce this new conflict. So as I'm writing, those are also kind of little incentives for me, especially if I figure it out at the end. And, you know, I've had a beta reader who still clings to wanting this to end a little bit differently. She's like, did any of your versions before what I read have it go the other way? And I'm like, no, she was always meant to do this. I didn't know at the very beginning who she was going to end up with, but I kind of knew the goal, I think. Again, I just play it by ear and I let the characters be who they are. Flesh out the characters. What are their wants, their desires, their fears, their motivations, and go on the journey with them. Discover it with them. I guess that's another word. Either you're a pantser or a discovery writer, or, you know, there's lots of different words that you can use for that. So I will say, if you have tried outlining, which is, you know, it's a good solid technique, and you're just getting so trapped by that and can't figure out how to get from point A to C, maybe just try setting that aside, crumpling it, whatever you want to do, and just put your keys to the keyboard and see if discovery writing is maybe more your thing. That can work for a novel, and it can even work for a series. When I wrote this, I had no idea where it was going. I just had the faintest concept of who these characters were in this world, and I knew there was a conflict, and I'm like, well, why is there a sense of foreboding? Oh, well, there are assassins. Why do the assassins hate them? What can they do to keep themselves safe? What can they, you know, what's this whole conflict? And it, just asking myself those questions as I wrote, it just formed, it just became its own thing, has a life of its own. It blossomed. Forgive the plant pun. But the series, especially because this was written as a standalone, only after I had completed at least the first draft, probably a few drafts of this book, did I realize, I wonder, because this main character's family has a certain way of handling secrets and protecting from the assassins on the hunt, the enemy race, right? What if in another book we got to see a different way of handling that? Oh, and there are going to be different struggles. And what if we can bring them together? And what if we've got opposites, but they need each other? And what if? And so again, discovering, I did not plan out this series. It was going to be one book, and then it turned into a trilogy. And then I wrote a fourth book, and then a fifth book, and I've started writing a sixth. And I'm pretty sure I know of at least one more. So it just keeps rolling on. Now, that's not for everyone, but I say give it a try. I say give both plotting and pantsing a try. Now, plotting, again, not my biggest thing, but it can save you from some heartache of having to go back and edit earlier books, which, you're kind of limited on if you publish. Like, I can't just go back and unkill a character or kill a character. Like, it's a canon now, right? It is what it is. I can't in book 2, unless resurrection is an actual trope, unkill someone. Otherwise, readers would be like, you clearly don't know what you're doing. This is frustrating, and then they are not going to read anymore. So it is good to have some sort of outline, some sort of foresight on that, and I have had to. Luckily, you know, I wrote 5 complete manuscripts for the series before book 1 ever got published. So I was able to go back and realize in book 3, like, ooh, all the way back in book 1, I should foreshadow this a little bit. I should, now that I understand my world a little bit more, I should include this aspect, or I made this promise about the powers that the point of view race has, and I realized that I had overpromised a little too much because I didn't even know what all their powers were. So being able to really flesh it out in a way of outlining does help save you some trouble later. It's also important to do some level of outlining depending on different things. For example, if you're writing a murder mystery, are they in a climate that has snow? Is it winter? Are there going to be footprints in the snow? You got to kind of think about these and the world that you've set it in. I tend to write a lot of young adult novels, and I have to think about, okay, well, they're high school. They've got prom, they've got spring break, they've got summer break, they've got all these things that they're either going to look forward to or not, but either way, for the reader immersion, I should consider and I should build into that. Also, I've had books with pregnancies or babies, and you have to consider, well, what is their development? What can a child at this age actually comprehend or do? You're not going to have the typical 5-year-old kid just crawling and not knowing how to stand yet. If they're developmentally delayed, that's one thing, but it's important to know that and be able to line those things up. You're hopefully not going to have a character that has been pregnant for 11 months skydiving, because so you're going to want to outline with those time frames and world building. I mean, maybe for writing fantasy, that's a thing for them. Maybe they're pregnant like elephants for like, what, 2 years? Ugh. So that's what I'll say about that, is there are resources out there like Save the Cat, and I think some of it hopefully is just intuitive or from research and reading a lot in your own genre to understand the expectations. Some are okay with a more slow scenic buildup, and some want the action right away, right? If you're going to have a murder mystery, you don't want to wait until chapter 5 to find out even who the victim was, right? You want to know in one of the very first scenes, like, oh, so-and-so got whacked, and now let's find out who done it. So understanding your genre is going to be very helpful. But do you have to outline? Heck no. Is it helpful to? Yeah, but not if it's hampering your creative process. And that's the most important thing, is getting through that manuscript, being able to get to that last page and put the end, even if you know it's garbage trash for a lot of it. Hitting that milestone, that landmark, putting up that flag and saying, I got it, right? That is a huge thing. And then you go back and you edit it many times. And then you can present it to other readers and writers for feedback to know, hey, where did I screw up? And trust me, I have screwed up a lot along the way to try to get a product that hopefully the majority of people will enjoy. And again, it's subjective. There's no such thing as a perfect book. My personal preferences may be affected by my ADHD. I've also put a video out about that. You can check that out. And just how it affects my writing process. I may be a little bit more scatterbrained, just like I'm a little rambly here. But I hope this has helped. If I haven't answered your question on the topic of outlining and pacing in a book, please do let me know down below. And I hope you guys have a great day. Again, please check out my book if it at all sounds like something that you would enjoy, with assassins, botanical beings. They're new races of fantasy creatures or humanoids that I created. And I hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye.